apropos of this Muslim woman wearing a hijab, if I'm saying that right, on this United flight, who was denied an unopened can of Diet Coke so that she could open it herself, according, Orthodox Jews are very similar in this regard. And, basically it's like cleanliness laws, as part of their religion. And what astonished me wasn't so much, a flight attendant who was, well, the flight attendant being a bigot, that, was she, here's the question, was the flight attendant a bigot, or was she just terrified? Was she frightened? I mean, is this, and I think it's probably the latter, although that leads to bigotry. Because we have now, for 13 years, been, beaten over the head, 14 years, repeatedly, with the idea that Muslims are the new, fill in the blank. They're the new enemy. And Muslims are not the new enemy. I mean, even worldwide, only 18% of worldwide Muslims are even Arab. And Arabs aren't the new enemy. I mean, George Bush did his best to try to make them the new enemy. He certainly upset a lot of them. He helped create ISIS and all that other kind of stuff. But this was our stupidity. And then over the weekend in Arizona, you had this idiot. Let me find his name. Maybe I shouldn't even. I don't know. But over the weekend, this so-called rally for free speech. The guy's named John Ritzheimer. He was wearing F Islam, only the F was all four letters spelled out, T-shirts. And he had a Draw Muhammad cartoon contest. So, the fearful bigots. It used to be, look out, black men are going to rape your wives and your daughters. I mean, that was the whole thing behind the war on drugs in the 1920s and 30s. Reefer madness. And to some extent continues to this day. And now it's, look out, she's wearing a hijab. Maybe she actually wants to use that can of Coke to take down the airplane. Really? Anyhow, he's wearing, this guy in Phoenix, he's wearing these F Islam T-shirts. The good news is that there was a crowd that was as large, maybe larger, of people who were, I saw one picture where there was one of the guys holding a sign that said something like, screw Islam or send Obama back to Kenya. I mean, all the crazies were there, right? I mean, it's the normal bunch of crazies. The people, the Fox so-called news watchers, people who listen to hate radio. Because they've got to distract you from, the powers that be, the big media networks and the billionaires like Rupert Murdoch. They've got to distract you from how they're robbing us all blind. And when people are being robbed blind, when middle-class people are seeing their lives destroyed, what do? They look around and they say, okay, who's destroying my life? And the media won't tell them. Oh, it's the billionaires and it's the big transnational corporations. It's the amazing piece in the Boston Globe this weekend. Last week, I was talking about stock buybacks. We'll get into that another time. But the point is, we're being robbed. We have been being robbed ever since the 1980s. I mean, this is what Reaganism was all about, was robbing the middle class to make the rich richer. And the middle class has shrunk, and the working poor has dramatically increased. So anyhow, this guy holds his so-called rally. And, the picture I was telling you about, there was this one guy with his, send Obama back to Kenya or, whatever. And the guy next to him was holding a sign that pointed to the man next to him that said, ignorant bigot. It's like, yeah. So anyhow, when the organizer of this thing was asked if he had anything to say to Anderson Cooper, he held up his middle finger and said, yeah, F you. Only he actually said the word. Let me just wrap this up with a quote from Molly Ivins that was posted today on Democratic Underground and is so, I mean, the late, great Molly Ivins. that is so solid. She said, when politicians start talking about large groups of their fellow Americans as enemies, it's time for a quiet stir of alertness. Polarizing people is a good way to win an election, but it's also a good way to wreck a country. And I would submit to you that's going to be the basis of Lindsey Graham's campaign. You just watch.